Okay, here's our Fertile Crescent you're familiar with. And just to get you up to speed with what's going on where we are here, we're coming down to the end of the century, or we're going to start out somewhere around 612 or a little before BC. Working our way down to 605 or so BC, these years we're going to cover. And we have four different areas of the world at that time that we're going to really be looking at this morning. The first one is the power that is in the green here, and that's out of Nineveh, Syria, that we've been dealing with all the time. They have been the world power for a significant period of time, and that is rapidly coming to a close. Their kingdom is crumbling, partially due to the ability of their leaders, partially due just to the fact that they've gotten so large and they're having rebellion in a lot of areas. They're trying to hold things together, and it's becoming increasingly expensive and difficult to do. Part of that problem is down here just off the screen in Egypt, who have been subdued and in and out of submission. And there is the 26th dynasty is beginning down there, and it has begun, and stronger leaders out of Egypt, and we will see that there's some rebellion in this area that's going to become an ally, which is really strange bedfellows. But the reason it's going to become an ally is because the big rising star is a man named Nabopolassar, coming out of Babylon, out of the Chaldeans, has been successful inch by inch, year by year, expanding his influence and pushing the Assyrians back over the last few years. And then of course we have Judah, little old Judah way over here, and we're going, they seem tiny and insignificant against these other world powers, and yet they're going to play a significant role in this whole big scheme. Our focus this morning is actually going to shift from Nineveh over here to Haran, and this little, you may not be able to read that way up there, it's a place called Carchemish. It's on the upper end of the Euphrates River, way up here. And if you would pop up our map of today, the one of Iraq. Here is modern day world as you saw it on your news this morning. This is Iraq. Here's Mosul up here at the top. And here is Syria over here. The border right here is the border of Turkey. And of course Iran over here. And all the focus is on your news right now is what's happening in northern Iraq as the rebels push south towards Baghdad. And the map we were just looking at, Nineveh, is up over this way on the Tigris in Iraq. And we're going to be looking at the Medes, remember Medo-Persia. Well, the Medes are the power that's over here in Iran, are going to be assisting with the powers that are down here in the strength of the Chaldeans. And Carchemish, the place we're going to look at, is right up here on the border of Turkey and Syria. So you can just kind of get a feel for the lay of the land where we're at. Here's Damascus, Syria, the Damascus, same Damascus we've been talking about for a long time. And this is going to be a turning point up here on this border for what's going to take place this morning. Let's see, how do we want to put all the players together? This is kind of interesting. I don't have a good picture of Nabopolassar, but he is the new power, and yes?
In all of this today stuff, this big rebel offshoot, they're an offshoot of what in our Bible history? Where did they go back to?
Well, the folks that are in power, while these countries have, this is Persia and Cyrus the Great, who's going to come in eventually and conquer Babylon a few years down the road. Cyrus comes in more like the end of Daniel, right at the return of, after all the years of captivity and the nations returning back to Jerusalem. when you read in those passages, that's right at the turn when Cyrus the Great, the Medes, and these folks are coming in, and they come in and take over from Babylon. And so that's this area of Iran is their background goes back to the Medes, the Persians. Cyrus the Great would be the background of the original peoples that live here. Now the Arab influence that's come in and the new religious fervor and all that is not part of what the religions were in those days. That's different and that's new. That's Mohammedan, much more recent than this. Okay. And same thing in Iraq, they got, of course, the Chaldeans and the Assyrians and those. That history is still there. You know, you go see the rubble of the ruins of Nineveh are there, and the ruins down here of the things, but they're not, the current influence again is the Muslim influence has come in since then. So it doesn't go back to the religions and things that drove these folks. It's new.
So what percentage now is Christian?
Oh, I would guess it's very small in both of them. I don't know exactly what it
Maybe
is.
5%?
Yeah, I would guess that it's 5%. Keep your head down. In all those areas. In fact, in Iran, I'm not sure that it isn't a punishable government offense to be a Christian, at least a Christian, to be peddling, not peddling, but to be promoting Christianity in Iran today is a dangerous thing to do. They might have some official allowance for some, you know, they want to say they're open and all that sort of thing. But if you are a dedicated Shiite or especially Sunni who is putting Sharia law in, the only thing to do with those who don't agree with you religiously is to kill them. So you either accept their faith the way they say it has to be done, and the way it has to be done, as well as all their standards about how women shall dress and all these other things, or you die. Simple.
Well, the group that's fighting right now to take control, that's what they say, all the women will have to stay home.
The Sunnis should say the women should stay home, they have to wear the entire coverings, no rights, don't leave without a male family member or their husband with them, and all this sort of thing. Yeah, very
Cut your
strict.
hands off if
Yeah, the Sharia law is the Sunnis are putting them behind them as they come down. They've come across from Syria up here on the border, and they're working their way down towards Baghdad right now as we speak. And then as they go along, that's what they are instituting in the areas they control, is that Sharia law. So that's the world today. They didn't have the same religion in those days, but the way they dealt with dissenters to the government was very similar. And they were not against using torture and whatever means necessary to gain control and instill fear in those that they conquered. The problem with fear is it only takes you so far, and that's what's happened to Assyria. The ability to instill fear, the anger and the uprising against that is starting to kick over the balance of fear and say, you know, we're willing to sacrifice to get rid of that oppression. Cyrus the Great's really interesting. No extra charge, but way down the road, Cyrus the Great's approach to it was very different. He was very open, very inclusive, tried to make friends, and his reign was really established on a totally different way of doing business, and was very successful for quite a while. So, anyway, this is the modern day, just so you get an idea. And again, the Euphrates River goes off over this way up into Syria and up towards Turkey, and there's your Fertile Crescent. You run up that river, and then the Tigris over this way, and that's where Nineveh is located over on that river valley over there. So back to our Fertile Crescent real quick so we can see how that overlaps. So here it is. Here is the modern, here's Iraq, you know. And so we've got Nineveh up here on the Tigris River, and we have Babylon down here. Baghdad is back up this way. And it's not on that map, obviously. They go up that way, and you take it all the way to the top of the crescent, and you got Haran and Carchemish, or Carchemish, depending on how you pronounce that, and then back down the other side to Damascus and on down to Egypt. So that's the lay of the land, is very similar to today. So we got Babylon has now pushed, and Nabopolassar is getting older. He is nearing the end of his life, but he has a son that you are familiar with. His name is Nebuchadnezzar II. And he is the head general, and he is in charge of the military, and they have now come in, and in about 6 minutes, cheat sheet or something. Computer can be a really wonderful thing, and can be a really frustrating thing. So I did want to give you a little bit of an idea of around 612 BC is when Nineveh was overrun. And it was overrun, and we read about it last time a little bit, that it was attacked. Something either flood stage or an undermining or blasting of their dams or something. They had a flood against the walls of the moat in Nineveh that undermined their walls, created a way in for the enemy. And Nineveh fell to a group effort of Nebuchadnezzar allied with the Medes from over here, who saw an opportunity to get their share of the pie as Assyria was crumbling that they'd never had before. So what Assyria did at that time is they moved the capital here to Haran. And one of the kings was killed, or one of the leaders was killed in Nineveh. The other one escaped and went westward to Haran. And Babylon is getting ready to bring an end to that. And so he called on this guy. There's a statue of him in the museum in Boston. There it is right there. It's a little hard to see. It's kind of dark. But he looks like a pharaoh. He's got the headdress on and his hands out here kneeling. This is Pharaoh Necho. This is a carving of it. It was found in Egypt. And that is him praying to his gods or some such thing there. I can't remember the total explanation what they think that is of. But this guy is the second king in the 26th dynasty. He is a really interesting guy. He is probably considered the guy that failed the most, but he also tried a lot of stuff. He tried a lot of military things that ended up not so well, and he actually had some problems with that. But he also did some building things, a lot of major building efforts, and my notes actually about him. The things that he tried to do, he was way ahead of his time building construction projects, and he did a whole bunch of them around Egypt. But the reason that you won't see a whole lot of stuff with his name on them is because for some reason the son that followed him, Psammetichus II, chiseled his name off of everything he could get his hands on. So there's little remnants of Necho, enough to give them clues to what he did, including there's a canal over there from the Red Sea that goes through to the Mediterranean these days. Anybody familiar with that canal? It goes right through Egypt. A ship canal that made such a big deal, the Suez Canal. He tried to do that in his day. Didn't get it done. Wasn't able to complete it, but he actually tried cutting a canal through the Suez. So this was a pretty sharp guy. He was oppressed by the Assyrians, but he was even more afraid of the Babylonians. In the passage that we're coming to today, we have Josiah on the throne in Jerusalem. And Josiah also has a problem, and his problem is Assyria. He's been threatened by Assyria. He's been paying money to Assyria. They've been all around. They've been the power he's had to deal with. And you will remember, if you go back to his grandfather, entertained some guests. Anybody remember that? Hezekiah had some visitors. Where were they from? Babylon. And he showed them all the stuff in his kingdom, showed off his military strength, they showed off his financial strength. Why would he do that? Pride a little bit, show them how strong he was. Why would he want to show them how strong he was?
But to scare them, to make them think they're bad.
That second half, more so than the first half. I don't think he wanted to scare the Babylonians. When you get to reading this and you read the commentators and the others, who's their problem? Assyria is their problem.
I think what he wanted to do is show how powerful he was.
How powerful he was and how helpful he could be to the Babylonian cause, which is trying to do what?
Take over the Assyria.
Take over Assyria. Babylon is trying to take over Assyria. Your problem is Assyria. Who do you want to ally yourself with? Babylon. Egypt is concerned about Babylon, even though they've had to deal with Assyria. And right now, back to our Fertile Crescent, if you would mind doing that for me. Actually, the Fertile Crescent, here we have our king of Assyria cornered up here, with Babylon coming up the red arrow at him, here. And you're stuck over here with these guys, and these guys mad at you. What are you going to look for? Allies. And your ally is Pharaoh Necho. We pick it up today in 2 Kings chapter 23. And we'll pick it up in verse 29, down towards the end of 23. I know we spent a lot of time, we're almost done with the hour, and here we are just getting to it. I'm sorry. But you really got to understand the whole thing, and this makes no sense at all. In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went to meet him. And when Pharaoh Necho saw him, he killed him at Megiddo. And his servants drove his body in a chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. And then the people landed Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, anointed him, made him king in the place of his father. And you go, that is crazy. What in the world was he doing going out and taking on that guy? So let's turn over to 2 Chronicles 35. Get myself over there. Tells us verse 20. After all this, when Josiah had set the temple in order, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to make war at Charchemish, the place we looked at the top of the Fertile Crescent, on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to engage him. But Necho sent messengers to him, saying, what have we to do with each other, O king of Judah? I am not coming against you today, but against the house with which I am at war. And God has ordered me to hurry. Stop for your own sake from interfering with God who is with me, that he may not destroy you. However, Josiah would not turn away from him, but disguised himself in order to make war with him. Nor did he listen to the words of Necho from the mouth of God, but came to make war on the plain of Megiddo. And the archers shot King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, take me away, for I am badly wounded. So his servants took him out of the chariot and carried him in the second chariot which he had, and brought him to Jerusalem, where he died and was buried in the tombs of his fathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. And Jeremiah chanted a lament for Josiah, and all the male and female singers speak about Josiah in their lamentations to this day. And they made him an ordinance in Israel. Behold, they are also written in the Lamentations. And the rest of the acts of Josiah and his deeds of devotion is written in the law of the Lord and his acts first to last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And you go, gosh, this king that had so much potential, he'd done so much for the nation, cleaned up all the idols. What is he doing out here? And the enemy that he saw itself said, I don't have anything to do with you. It's not our battle. Just let me go on through. If you give me the divided kingdom map, you met him at Megiddo, and I don't have a really good map of Megiddo, but the Via del Mars, or Maris, or however you pronounce it, the Way of the Sea, the main road comes from Egypt right up through the Philistine area there, right up through there, crosses over just south and east of Mount Carmel right there into the valley of Jezreel. And Megiddo is the fortress that guards the road right there. And that's where Josiah chose to try to head off the army of Egypt, who's going all the way up through Syria, way up here to Carchemish. Because that is where Assyria is going to meet Nebuchadnezzar II. And so now you think about it, why in the world would Judah, little dinky Judah, try to get mixed up in this battle of the Titans by going out and heading off Pharaoh at Megiddo? Because he's allied with Babylon. And Babylon is trying to corner the king of Assyria at Carchemish. He doesn't want him reinforced by Egypt. And Josiah apparently is asked or encouraged to go head him off at the pass, quite literally, then they get it. Isn't that interesting? Fascinating stuff. Why would he do that? Because unfortunately, just like us, he's human. And he didn't listen to what folks were telling him. I have just a couple other pictures I wanted to share with you, just to, we know about this battle for Carchemish because there's a tablet that I have a picture of for you. There are a number of tablets in the can you read the fine print there? That doesn't look like anything at all. I've got some little hand scratches on that thing. There are a number of these that record in detail the great victories of Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. There's several of them. This is, I think, number 3 of them. And it describes the battle of Carchemish, as well as the fall of Nineveh, and who all was involved, and Pharaoh Necho, and everybody there. And it's all recorded right there. And by the way, the fall of Nineveh, in the excavations in Nineveh, really interesting. I have a picture for you, really gruesome. You'll love it. Right there, I don't know if you can make that out. There is one skeleton right here, and one skeleton right there. And those folks are the soldiers, the defenders of the walls in Nineveh that fell on the day that the Medes and the Assyrians took the city. Isn't that fascinating? Still with us today. Cool. Let's see, what else was the other one I had there?
So
I don't-
Ron,
yeah.
how are they preserved, obviously?
Somehow they were buried in the rubble when the city was destroyed. When they were excavating the city, they found
So they're way down deep.
down underneath the pile of stuff, I guess. So, yeah, the article didn't clearly say how they found them. It just said, here's a picture of the defenders they found near the wall or someplace in a place where they were obviously, from the things around them, identified. This is, I just threw this one picture in. This is on the border. You gotta be really careful about going to this place. It is probably not a good, I don't know how they got this picture. It's probably not a good idea to be standing out in the field taking a picture of that spot. This is the border between Turkey and Syria. And that is a Turkish military outpost. Notice how it sits up on that little butte? That's Carchemish, where the battle took place. Isn't that cool? Right along, you can see this green here, the river Euphrates runs right there. That's it.
modern day Turkey today, and still a good vantage point to watch the border between Syria and Turkey. And I can tell you what, if you were there today, they would be watching that border very, very closely, because folks are really nervous in Turkey about what's going on in Syria and further downstream in Iraq.
So that's the location today that this battle takes place.
And I don't think I threw in the map of the battle of Carchemish. Did I throw in that map? I can't remember. I looked at it. I was like, okay. Here is the battle, and it shows
Lines out a little bit. Egypt came up. There's Megiddo where he had his confrontation. He goes on up here, meets with, and they charge across. It's the
first time in a long, long time that Egypt has crossed the Euphrates River and pushed their way over, and it ended disastrously for them.
They were beaten badly at Carchemish. They
Way underestimated the power of Babylon.
and they sent them packing back to Hamath, and they thought they were going to regroup there. And you can see the dotted line right here where
Babylon came right on back after them and pounded them good there
and sent them packing back home to Egypt.
Where's the Euphrates River there?
I'm sorry?
Where is the Euphrates River on the map?
Euphrates River is this little black line right there.
Okay.
It goes all the way up and right past Carchemish, right up there. In fact, it goes all the way up into Turkey here. The headwaters are in the mountains there.
So that was the turning point.
From that point on, the king of Assyria that was
There, and I had his name, but I don't know if I can even pronounce it. Ashur-uballit II disappears from history. We don't know what happened to him. We don't know if he's killed in the battle. We don't know if he just escaped and hid out somewhere or what. But that battle is the last record we have of him at all. And that's the end of Assyria as a world power right there. Turning point and everything. Josiah is right in the middle of it. Interestingly, now we are about out of time, but if you go to Jeremiah chapter 46, I think it is. Yes, Jeremiah 46. We have Jeremiah with a warning to Egypt. And here is the thing that he uses as a heads up to Egypt, what's coming to them in the future, because God's not happy with them. And he says this, that which came as the word of the Lord to Jeremiah the prophet concerning the nations. So all the nations are going to get discussed here by the prophet Jeremiah. And this is the guy who would have been alive in the time of Josiah. He's the one that did the lament for Josiah. To Egypt concerning the army of Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the Euphrates River at Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. It says, remember that battle, guys? And then he goes through, line up the shield and buckler, draw near for battle, get your stuff all ready. Why? Because I'm going to wipe you up to face you. Remember what happened when you took on Babylon? Heads up, I'm not happy with you. You think you're big stuff, I'm going to humble you. Remember that day. So there it is, Jeremiah saying, that's what happened. And sure enough, when you go to that tablet and read about it, it agrees with Jeremiah. That's what happened right there. Real quickly, just so you can follow the trace of history, and then we'll say, so what? When Egypt returns tail between their legs, they go back through Judah and straighten out a few things on the way by. The people of the land had taken Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, made him king in the place of his father. He was 23. He wasn't actually the oldest necessarily, but he was the one that was chosen, and he became king, and he reigned 3 whole months in Jerusalem. several months. And then in verse 3 of Chronicles 36, it says, the king of Egypt deposed him at Jerusalem, Necho on his way home, and imposed on the land a fine of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed his name to Jehoiakim, but Necho took Jehoahaz, his brother, and brought him to Egypt, where he stayed. Now you can understand a little bit of why there's more judgment on Egypt in Jeremiah's writings, because they have thought they were still big stuff and going to control things in Jerusalem, and he's saying, they'll go last. And then Nebuchadnezzar comes along after that. But this is the beginning of the end for the nation of Israel. You will see rapid fire kings that don't, I mean, in our terms of presidential terms, they're there a long time, yet there's still quite a few years in our way of thinking from the end to the end. But it's imminent at this point. And we just don't have any good kings after that. It's, we're only one page from being to the end of Chronicles here. We're right at the end of the nation. So this is all interesting politics and geopolitical stuff and battles and wars and everything. So what? Why do we care today what this says? What do you learn from Josiah? What do you take home from Josiah?
Josiah apparently didn't consult God at all. He just did what was politically looked best.
It's hard to understand, because the scripture does say that he was like his father David and all this sort of thing, and you see him cleaning up all the things religiously, and yet somehow that did not transfer over into his daily life as king and his choices about how to lead the nation. And apparently, from not only through Necho and other ways through Jeremiah, he was getting warnings not to go to Megiddo, not to do Babylon's bidding. He may have even been reminded of what Hezekiah was told about Babylon and what's going to happen from those hanging out with those guys. And yet he still, something in him wanted to have the alliance, wanted to impress, you go, what was it that drove him to do that, to not listen? And the warning, I think, to me, is you can have all this part of your life, you can show up in church, you can serve, you can teach, you can do all that stuff, and if you can't learn to apply it or be willing in your heart to apply it to every other place in your life, there's a big hole waiting for you out there. And it's not like God didn't warn him, and maybe this is his way of warning us to say, make sure you think hard and long about what's the motivation for doing what you're doing. Are you doing it because this is what God teaches and what he wants us to do and the way he wants us to live and the way we put our trust? Or are you doing that because it comes easy for your personality? Are you doing it because it's what the rest of the world is doing? Are you doing it because you want other people looking at you to be impressed one way or another, or at least to fit in? It sounds crazy talking about a king that just wants to fit in, and yet here's this little teeny Judah. And for the king of this little teeny place called Judah to be a major player in the battle of the Titans, is that a high as a king or what? Somehow be in there in the middle of the negotiations and be somebody instead of just being God's body. I don't know. But it's like there's some kind of a flashing warning light here that a guy that's as great a guy as Josiah, that God would say that he is unlike anybody else for doing right in the sight of the Lord, walking in the ways of his father David, and did not turn aside from the right or the left. That's the way it records him. And yet, even he was tempted to make this wrong turn and not listen. So the temptations are tough. We really got to have our eyes open, and we're out of time. Let's close. Father, we thank you for our time together this morning, and if you're a student of history and you love to get into the details of these things, it can be really interesting to see the history that took place and try to bring alive these ancient peoples and battles and sometimes strange sounding names of people and places, and to just see what happened and try to understand it as things that are real and not just some kind of fairy tale or little bits and pieces of things that make no sense in our Bibles. And yet we know that you didn't record them just so we could have a fun history exercise, but you recorded them because you wanted us to learn something about you. And pray, Father, that in this reign of this man Josiah, that we might learn the positive things, that he listened to you, that when the Torah was found, that he got it out, he had it read, he studied it, he attempted to understand it, and he saw that there was judgment for the evil that had come into his land. And maybe he understood somewhat that some of that discipline was coming and there wasn't anything he could do to change it. But Father, it appears that at least in one area of his life that he just failed to listen well to what you were telling him. And we pray, Father, that you would help us to see that and not just look at it as a fairy tale, but as a warning to us to listen well, as a warning to read your word and attempt to understand it, to listen to our pastors that you send to us. When Adam is teaching, help us to be tuned in and listening to your word as it's explained to us, that we might live lives that are pleasing to you and make decisions about even our daily lives that aren't right around the temple, if you were, that are honoring to you, that are according to your will. And that we wouldn't tend to grab the wheel and steer it our way, but that we would be open and listening to your direction and have faith that you will take care of us, you will preserve us, and we don't need to ally ourselves with the world in order to survive. Thank you, Father, that you are a God of grace, that you have forgiven us for our sin, that you in grace will discipline us and steer us the right way when we need it. And we just thank you that we can wholly trust in you as we see your hand of grace that guides your nation, Israel. Thank you for our time together this morning. In Jesus' name.